Today I want to share 5 relationship lessons I've learned. The first lesson I learned is from Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. He says couples should spend at least 90 minutes per week, or even more, talking about the economics of the household. And that means sitting down and actually discussing what's going on in each other's lives. So you could ask questions like, how's work going? How do you feel? Who's paying which bills? Who takes out the trash? Why is the window always open during the night when we sleep? So it's about talking through both the practical and the emotional parts of living together or being in a relationship. Because if you don't, you slowly drift apart. You may live together or be together in a relationship, but don't actually know what's going on in the other person's world. And you can do this in one long session or spread it out over the week. Most people actually already doing that. Spread it out throughout the week or over the course of 1 week. But the point is simple. You talk enough that you stay aligned. Lesson number 2 builds on that. You have at least 1, or even better, 2 or 3 date nights per week. So when life gets busy, it's easy to say, let's skip this week. We've got too much going on, but that's exactly when you shouldn't. Relationships need active effort. That might mean the woman dresses up a little, or the man as well. The man plans the evening. Maybe you create a small Spotify playlist together, or one person prepares that, or you cook a nice meal. So it's about both parties are making an active effort to keep up the romance in a relationship. So keeping up the romance alive is a choice you make every week with active commitment. Lesson number 3, you understand each other's personality. The third lesson is more of a big picture one. Both of you should know what kind of personality the other person has so you can communicate better. And I learned this from doing the Understand Myself personality test by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. It's based on the big 5 personality traits: conscientiousness, agreeableness, openness, extroversion, and neuroticism. And you can both take the test, so man and woman, and connect your results and get a couples report that shows up your personalities, or that shows how your personalities interact. And when you understand each other's wiring, you stop expecting your partner to behave like you, and that changes everything. In other words, you understand what are the similarities in both your personalities and what are the differences. And then you can communicate better. You may appreciate the similarities as well as the differences. And I think that's a very valuable insight, because obviously it's nice to have similarities, but also to have differences, because that can give you a different perspective on life and can enrich both lives together, because you have different approaches how to do things. But obviously it's also nice to have similarities. Both are very valuable in the end. So the main lesson here is you understand each other's personalities via this Understand Myself test. And the cool thing is, if you take the test, both of you do that personality test, then you can connect it, and it provides you with a couples report. And then you can go through that report and discuss it and see how you score on those big 5 personality traits. Lesson number 4, short-term discomfort for long-term comfort. And if something bothers you, you say it now. You don't wait until it piles up into resentment. You don't hide it in the fog, in other words. But I think an important aspect here, if you say things that bother you directly to your husband or wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, also being specific is important. So if the bathroom sink is always messy, you talk about that, not about the person's entire personality. So you could say, hey, for instance, you can say, hey, can we make sure the sink stays clean after brushing? Not, you're so disorganized. So you're not insulting or attacking the other person's personality as an entire thing. You are very specific about a specific thing, and then you can actually solve it. So the point is, small, honest conversations create a peaceful long-term relationship. Avoiding them might feel easier short-term, but eventually it leads to explosions. So whenever something needs to be discussed, do it now. So solve issues early, stay aligned, and keep playing the same game together. And the cool thing is, if you have those small conversations over and over again, you find regularly solutions that are both maybe good to you, win-win situations. But if you don't have that, and I think Peterson also talked about that, in some cases it's like you didn't have 1,000 hard conversations, and then after not having 1,000 hard conversations in the moment right now, it ends in an explosion, so that one person gets very angry and everything is not good. But if you over and over tackle the small things, you're very specific about a matter, and you can solve that right away. Because the thing is, you can either quit a relationship or you can have 1,000 hard conversations. And if you have 1,000 hard conversations, you can perhaps find a game that are both willing to play. And obviously, I'm not saying what is better. Obviously, there are reasons why to quit a relationship. There are reasons why to stay in a relationship. But I just like this mindset of, okay, you can work on it. You can have a lot of hard conversations and solve the many, many small things that both of you are finding a game where both of the persons in that relationship are better together and found a way how they can communicate and live a peaceful, happy existence together. So short-term discomfort for long-term comfort. And a cool story I just remembered is, I read that in Peterson's book, I think it was Beyond Order, where he talks about not hiding things in the fog. There, I think the parents of his wife, Tammy, I think it was them, the wife always served the meal to her husband on small plates for decades, I think. And interestingly, and that's very nice and beautiful, but after many years of doing that, after one point, he got a little bit angry because he actually hated those small plates. And it was like a huge explosion. But he waited years for that. But he could also say that in the first place, like, maybe other plates would be nice. And that's just a nice example of, hey, don't let it come to that point where you have an explosion. Tackle it before that short-term discomfort for long-term comfort. Lesson number 5 is about expectations. You need to know what you actually want in a relationship, and so does your partner. You can ask questions like, what does a happy life look like to you? Do you want kids? Do you want to get married? What does your ideal day look like? And if you don't talk about these things, you might realize years later that you want completely different lives. And when I did this myself, I made a list of what's important to me in the other person. And then I prioritized it. And some things are non-negotiable, they are very important, and others are nice to have. And if something lower or something is lower on my list conflicts with something higher on my list, I know which one wins. That's important. That's quite a cool routine. You can write everything that's important to you in the other person, what you're looking for, write everything down, then you bring that into a hierarchy, and then you know exactly or approximately what's important to you in another person. So, and that helped me at least to stay clear and to a certain degree, or it helped me just what I want. And also, I think it's also not also important. Don't just ask, how do I find the right person? Because that's right now what always many people are asking, and I did it myself. But also flipping that instead, saying, how do I become the kind of person someone amazing would want to be with? So you make your first, or work on yourself first, your health, your discipline, your kindness perhaps, and then you look for someone who complements that. And when you find that person, also communicating your non-negotiables I found helpful, or just setting the expectations right. Like, hey, I work out regularly, or I eat healthy. And that way, you both know what to expect from each other. So the core idea here is expectation setting upfront, and maybe it saves a lot of pain later.